Hello, how are you? It's a nice night. 50 mile an hour winds coming tonight. So, I might be over the rainbow tomorrow, or I might still be here. Yeah, I just never know when those winds start blowing. I did see a man picked up by a 100-mile wind and pinned on the side of his house. And he was like this. And then slid down the house very slowly when the wind subsided. I wish I had a video for that. It'd never make go crazy. Well, I guess they're already there. But I'm crazier than they already are. All right, this is my beautiful, I never showed you this. This is my very beautiful thing that I have for using to preach. And it's solid brass. And I got it for $3 at a garage sale. I'm a big spender. I know. I shouldn't. But I keep thinking I can resell stuff. And somehow I still have it around. Yeah. Now we're with John chapter 13. I'm bound and determined before I die, I'm going to complete the whole Gospel of John. Please pray for me. So John 13, 10 through 11, let's pray. God, you know the circumstances we're facing in our world, and you've already shown us these same dynamics have occurred many times throughout history, leading to great changes. And as we look around the world and we see how evil rages, how deception is used, how lies are manipulated, how men are disgraced who are good men, but they are disgraced because they believe in you, and how they attempt to undermine the church. And we don't want to be afraid or worried about that, because we know our God is sufficient to bring us through all those seasons, and we will be his example of the sacrificial servant in all of our days. You'll send to us who you want us to speak with, and we will be prepared by you if we are still seeking you and trusting you and not allowing our minds to be cluttered by fear. Fear that has no basis, is temporary, and will not be here very long. That's what temporary means. Lord, bless me. Anyhow, as I preach today, before I preach in my prayer. Amen.
Amen.
Sometimes I get to going like I guess I'm not supposed to preach it. I'm still praying. Go figure. I don't know. What the heck? It's what I am. At least you don't have to live with me. I have to live with me. That's why you should pray. All right, John 13, 10 through 11 says, Jesus answered, those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you, for he knew who was going to betray him, and that is why he said not every one of you was clean. Okay, now Jesus recognized. Now he's talking, in the context here, we're talking to Peter. Jesus, I'm not talking to Peter. We're not talking, I'm sorry. Jesus is talking to Peter, having a conversation about washing his feet. Yeah, and in my entire life, I've never had a conversation about somebody else washing my feet. But they had one, and it's recorded for all time, because it's probably the only time in history anybody's had a conversation about washing their feet. Okay, and arguing about whether it's okay to wash my feet or not. That's bizarre, and that's kind of startling in and of itself, in my opinion. So anyway, here we are, and Jesus recognized. Now, he's just told Peter that he did not recognize. And now Jesus is seeing something, and he's answering because Jesus recognized. But human beings don't recognize. We think we recognize something, and then we wind up realizing, like the other day, I was driving down the road, going to my son's house to watch my 4 insane tornadoes that he had birthed to him, and they're also called my grandchildren. And that can be quite an experience for me. I usually wear earplugs because I like to keep my hearing before, for as long as possible. And they don't seem to care. Okay, so, and as hard as I try to tell them not to be so loud when they scream bloody murder every 3 seconds, and never mind, that's a long story. So anyhow, I was driving there, and I saw a car in front of me. And it was the same exact car. Year, color, the whole 9 yards, as the car that Arlene and I bought for her this summer at the UGM, a 2000 Avalon Toyota. Beautiful car. And her car looks like it's brand new. I mean, it doesn't look like it was even driven. Leather seats, and anyhow. And so I saw her and I thought, oh, gee, I'm right behind Arlene. She doesn't even know. So I started honking and I started waving. I started flashing my lights off and on. No response. So I decided, well, because I didn't think there was another 2000 Avalon in the Spokane. I had decided that I knew who was driving that car and that there was only one of those cars in this city because I hadn't seen another one since we bought that one. And so I decided I was going to communicate with the driver whatever way I had to do it. Well, everything I did, nothing, no response. They just kept driving. I was right behind him. I thought, what is wrong with her? So I finally texted her, got no response. So then, this is about a 15-mile drive to my kid's house from where I was, and they were going exactly the same way, and she had a friend. Arlene has a friend right close to where my kids go on the same route. I thought she's probably going to see Roxy. And so, and she was following the exact right path for that. So that furthered my realization that I was certain of who was driving that car. So, honking, blinking my lights, off and on, going, what in the heck, texted, no answer. And then finally I said, well, heck, I'm just going to call her. And so I called her, and I said, why don't you look behind you? And she said, well, okay, why should I look behind me? I said, because I'm driving right behind you, and you won't pay attention. And she said, well, I'm sitting on my couch in the living room. I said, no, you're not. You're driving the car. You don't know where you are. And that's how silly we are. I mean, we think we know something. We haven't got a clue. We think we know something, and we're out in left park. And that's where Peter was. He was just absolutely, completely without any idea what he should do. And so he just jumps back and forth. He first, don't touch me. Oh, wash my whole self. Don't touch me. He doesn't know. He doesn't realize what's happening. But Jesus, on the other hand, was very calm. And he realizes truthfully what will happen. So we can trust him because he knows. So Jesus responds to his blindness, to his darkness, because he knows the disciples still don't understand who he is. And they're trying real hard, but he keeps doing weird things they can't figure out what. They look at each other and go, oh, what's he doing? When are we going to get to what we're supposed to be doing? He keeps doing some other weird thing. It's like the person driving the car in front of me, they would not get the message. They're probably on their phone to the police saying, there's a guy behind me that's a lunatic and he won't leave me alone. He's been following me for 10 miles now. Honking his horn and flashing his lights, and I'm tired of it. Could you please come help me? And then finally he turned off into the what is that on the corner by Roxy's, that supermarket?
Oh, Albertsons.
Albertsons, instead of where I thought he was supposed to be going. I think it was a guy. I couldn't see. All I could see was the hat there. And then she wears a hat like that, so I thought it definitely had to be her because I saw her with the hat. The person with a hat similar to the one that she wears. The car, the color. I mean, how could I be wrong on that? That's completely wrong. I'm making an ass of myself. I mean, an idiot, I should say. Well, an ass isn't a donkey, that can't reproduce. Anyhow, never mind. So Jesus recognized, he knew when a person had a plan to take matters in their own hands and do things the way they wanted to do. And when a person carries in their mind the desire to take an action different than the plan or the agenda of the social group as a whole, the person does not have a clean, uncluttered focus with no hidden agenda. When they don't have a pure mind that is in harmony with the social group, then they've got a hidden agenda. So they are not clean. Now this is similar, and I think it's the same root in the Greek word as I studied, as the word guile. Jesus talked about a man that he met with no guile. And that was Nathanael. When he met Nathanael, he said, oh indeed, behold, an Israelite in whom there is no guile. And that's John 1:47. We remember studying that. If you're not in heaven with Jesus since I started the study, and you're still around, you might remember when I did chapter 1. Anyhow, so he's referring to a man without deceitfulness, without cunning, and with no duplicity. And when you have duplicity, that means you really have two separate lives, and you don't want, or more, and you don't want any of the information from one of your lives to be known by anybody in the other one of your lives. So if you have two social groups, you don't want anybody to communicate anything that happens in this social group. You don't want them to know you have another secret life. There are many, many people that are duplicitous. And some people even have families in other parts of the world. I've heard of people that have 6, 7 families on every part of the Midwest, on the coast, in both coasts, up the coast of Canada, down by Mexico. I mean, they got families all over the place, and none of them know the other families exist until someday something happens, and everybody finds out about everybody. And I've seen it when the person dies, that all of these families come together who did not know they existed. And and I have actually officiated at a service in the past where there was only 2 of them, but 2 families came to the funeral that didn't know each other. And I tell you, that's quite a challenge for a pastor to deal with at a death. And I won't go on about that anymore. So anyhow, he refers to this person that is very rare in his estimation. Jesus sees a person with no hidden agenda, no guile, no desire to manipulate anybody to get something they want, no selfish interest, no desire to build a kingdom for themselves or be God over themselves. They're just all they're interested in is serving and being a servant. And they're simple in their mind. They're simple in their thought. They're simple in their deeds according to others, because we get ourselves twisted up in this highly complex mess mentally of all these different variables from different things. We're trying to sort them out, and we don't want anybody to know about this, what we did, or this, and we get to the point where we can't even figure it out ourselves. We start thinking things are true that are not true, because we don't realize how confusing and how difficult we create, what a difficult situation we create in our life when we allow ourselves to have all this hidden agenda and all these lies and all these plots and plans and schemes to manipulate our world into what we want it to be. And that's what Jesus is saying that Nathanael doesn't have. Now, Peter is very similar to that, because anything that's on his mind comes out of his mouth. And I was talking to my son last night about the current circumstance in the nation, and I said I'd really rather have somebody that just blurts out everything that's in their brain, even though it's disgusting, and I know they're telling the truth. Because nobody in their right mind would say that they said, which some people have said to me before. One woman told me, says, the things that come out of your mouth. And I didn't know what she was talking about. Because I just kind of say what comes into my brain sometimes. I'm better now. I've improved. Honestly, I have. Now I'm having to help people who had the same problem I had in the past. But, anyhow. No one's. I'm not talking about any particular specific person. If you're out there and you're thinking I'm talking about you, no, I'm not. It just says, just never mind. Dig myself a hole. So when a person has this, Jesus knows it. When he saw this man coming with no guile, immediately he knew that person had no guile. Just by looking at him, he knew he had no guile. And as you get older, and you go through a lot of situations where, I remember a guy in my church, he seemed like a really nice guy. He was very kind, and he was very interested in me. And he says, well, I really want to help you get a computer. Have you heard of computers? Yeah, I think I have heard of it. And it was a long time ago, when I was a really young pastor. And he was in one of my parishioners, and he says, well, I'll tell you what, the best computer out there is an Amiga. And I said, I never heard of an Amiga. What is that? Oh, an Amiga, the beginning and the end. It's the best computer out there. And we can get one for you. And I said, okay, well, if you think that's the best, I said, okay. So we hunted around. He found a used Amiga, and I bought it. And then I got a bunch of software with it, and then seemed like a good deal to me. I mean, it was much less than a new one would be, and it wasn't that old. So I thought, well, gee, thanks a lot for that. And he says, and then a few days later, he says, hey, Don, I got something exciting for you. I said, what? Oh, there's a new program out that will go with your Amiga, and it's really a fun game. And I said, well, I really don't want another thing for it. I'm not really, oh, you got to have this. It's only $60. And I said, well, $60, that's a pile of money for me. I was making, what was I making, $800 a month as a senior pastor? And I had 2 kids and a wife and a house to take care of, and my wife wasn't working. I mean, I didn't have like dollars to throw away on something. But he, every week, he would call me with another software. And I said, why, where are you getting all this software? Well, he finally, I don't remember how I found out, but I found out the whole thing was calculated as a plan for him to be able to sell software because he was working for Amiga. And he saw me as an easy mark to make money on. Hook me into the computer and then start selling me software. Well, I don't know if any of you out there in La La Land have ever heard of an Amiga computer. You would have to be probably my age too, because they were probably around for 1 or 2 years and then they're worthless. And the thing, nobody has an Amiga anymore. If you have one, you have a worse than a Detroit dinosaur. I mean, it's like nothing for the Amiga now. It doesn't exist. Well, that's just the point that I didn't recognize it. Looking at him, I thought he had a pure motive for me to help me, but he wasn't. He was seeking to help himself, so he would be able to. It would be much better for me to get an IBM or something that would be around for a while. However, and the costs were about the same, but I trusted him. Now, this is something I learned over time, that people have hidden agenda. Jesus knows it's very, very rare for a person who is talking to you and asking you for something or around you to not have a hidden agenda to bring you into a position where you will support them in what they're doing. Now, this is so rampant in our culture that people are just extremely wary of everybody, that they're deceitfully trying to manipulate you into something that will cause you to benefit them at your expense. And this is one of the saddest things, is that there's a lot of people calling themselves godly men and women who have devised these heretical theories or philosophies or theologies that place fear on everyone that hears them, and actually causes the people to be attached to that person or the denomination they represent. So you can't go to anyone else's denomination because they don't have the words of God the way that we do. And I even had a pastor once tell me in one of these denominations, well, I'm God's representative. So that makes me God over you. And this is what you need to do. You need to divorce your wife. I think you serve a different God than I do. I'm sorry. I'll see you later. So, and this was a mainline denomination. A guy who believed that he pointed to his ordination on the wall, and he says, this makes me God over you because I'm God's commissioned. He actually told me that in private. He denied it if I could get the guy in here, but I don't want him. It's not worth it. The point is that this doesn't just exist within the secular realm. It is rampantly happening in the Christian realm and in every other religious group that exists. They are earthly organizations seeking to manipulate the environment and to get parishioners to donate to their church so that they can continue to pay the bills on these ridiculously expensive buildings. And I understand that. If you had a building to take care of, you're talking any kind of, even a small church building is millions of dollars a year, at least $1 million, to run a church. You've got to get money somehow. And you've got to get parishioners in your church. And if there isn't people sitting in the pews, you ain't going to have a church. So the whole configuration of it sets up the people involved to have to focus too much on money. And when they do, it becomes too authoritative in their lives. And that's true in every environment. That's true in business. That a businessman who owns a business, they want to make money. And so they're going to pinch pennies. They're going to pay you the least that they can possibly get away with. They're going to make you work as many hours as they can get you to work when they're going to pay you as little as possible. And it's only law that would cause them to actually make sure that you have what you need not always, but most of the time, most businesses that way. So you have to be leery as an employee that you're not being taken advantage of, and be able to have the boldness to say, I'm not going to work here if you don't pay me a decent wage, and then go on to someplace that does. So this is a dynamic, a battle, a struggle that we face all the time in our lives, and Jesus is dealing with it right here in this environment. These disciples, even though they were sincere, they believed that Jesus was the Messiah, and they just believed that he was a political leader, a military leader, and a political king on this earth that would rule over everyone. That's how they had interpreted it. And so that everyone would come under his feet as the king, and the rest of the world would be unable to touch the Israelites chosen from God, and they would never be in any kind of tyranny at the hands of other people who did not believe as they did. That's what they thought he was going to do. He wouldn't do that. He wasn't doing that. He did accomplish that task in some ways, but he wasn't doing it the way they thought he would. So those who enter into his support, enter into his gift, and receive it, do receive freedom. And that freedom is from tyranny of the worldly authorities, because we invest in heaven and eternal life, not in this earth. And whether we make money or not is dependent on whether God wants us to have money or not. And if things work out, I've seen this so many times. I rent rooms in my house. I go, nobody's going to rent a room in my house. Why would they rent a room in my house? All of a sudden I get, somebody rent a room. I got $1,000. Rented. They want to be here 2 months. Oh, wow, that helps me pay the bills. Oh, how'd that happen? And it just happens. And that's because I'm just doing what I can, but I'm putting God first and trusting him, but not to the detriment of others. Okay, I won't go on that anymore. Jesus spoke of the rare condition that we see. Jesus referring to the condition of the mind, that we have a condition in our mind, a perspective we see. What do we see? How do we define what we see? What principles and guidelines exist within your mind to decipher and decode what comes into your ears, what comes out of your mouth, what you understand. Now, everything that Peter was thinking was defining the events incorrectly. And as a consequence, when Jesus did something that was completely opposite of what was expected, everybody's startled. What's he doing? Well, we've talked about that. And we see Peter here. He's clearly free to express himself with constant painful honesty. We never hear about Nathaniel doing that. I think he was a little quieter. He just kind of stood there. I don't think he probably thought about too much at all. He just, what do you want me to do? I'm a servant. Okay, I'll do it. Not worrying, not thinking, not manipulating, not trying to get something, not just trying to find out what he's going to get in return, whether it's equitable or not. He's just, okay, you want me to do that? I'm following you. You're the Messiah. I'll do it. That's probably Nathaniel. But Peter's not like that. Peter's all over the place. So when he has thought the desire, the plan, everyone knows about, when he speaks it out, Peter gives us insight into the disciples' perception of Christ. This is how I'm speaking. And what insight I'm having is when Jesus said, you are clean, but one of them are not clean. He knew that there was one person in there who had a plan that some or all of the disciples were not aware of. But Jesus was aware of it. Now, that's that guy we all villainize, Judas. And Jesus also knew that Judas accepted the job. Now, that's a factor that we have to look at as certainly a character flaw in Judas. No one else would have been able to accomplish that. Theoretically, if we look back, Judas was chosen by Jesus. Since Jesus knows, you can look at somebody and tell whether they're a man with no guile or they're a man with guile. Then the hunch is that he chose him knowing that he would be a person willing to betray. So when we really think about these facts, we got to really be careful about how we define Judas, and we'll be talking about that more. So Judas had already agreed to negotiate a plan with the enemy in secret, and Jesus knew that plan of Judas even before the enemy entered into him. So God allowed that enemy to enter Judas, and that may be offensive to some of you. But we know that we have a record in the Old Testament of Job, and there's a story of Satan going to God and saying, "Look, you think your servant Job's so hot? If you took everything, you're blessing him right and left. He's got land, he's got a wife, he's got kids, he's got animals, he's got everything. No, he's honorable, he's honest, he's faithful. He's trusting you. If you take all that away from him, he's going to curse you. It's just because you're helping him out so much that he loves you." And that's, I think, a trap that a lot of us will get into when we see, I give money to people in Africa. And a lot of times, and other countries, because they have ministry that I feel God has called me to help. And somebody gives me the money, I'm just a broker for God. I get the money and give it to them. Anyhow, so, and when I do that, I don't think about whether or not they're doing right. I think about doing what God wants me to do. Now, I do check on them, so I'm not saying that these people I know, I've seen, I've been there. So I completely forgot why I started talking about that. So I'm going to go on with this point. Maybe I'll remember in a second. I don't know. God allowed this enemy and this person who's that guy? Job. Anyhow, the guy in the Old Testament, he lost everything. Literally, even his health. And he didn't curse God. He asked God what the heck is going on several times. And he had to endure accusations and threats and judgments from all the people around him. Well, God wouldn't do this. Someone wouldn't let this happen to somebody that's a good man. So that can be, you did something. You got to tell the truth now. What are you doing in secret? I'm not doing anything. Oh, you're lying? Get off it. Stop pretending. Maybe you don't even know you did something wrong. But you have to, because God wouldn't do this to anybody unless you did something wrong. And we want to know what it is. And those people, they realized that Job was not the righteous man he pretended to be, but he was just like them, with duplicitous craftiness and hidden agendas that were causing him to be judged and hated and treated badly by God. But no. So why do we think that can't happen with Judas? That he was commissioned to play a role in our salvation. And that role was an ugly role that even Jesus said, no, this is miserable. This would be like, you're better off if you wrap something around your neck, throw yourself in the ocean. And we see that Judas was very upset because somehow he talked himself into, this is what Jesus wants me to do, or this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is going to be a good thing, and it's going to get things rolling, and we're going to be in, and he's just going to conquer all these people. It's because he's God, so they can't capture him. They just think they can. So I'm not doing it. I get some money and get us going on the victory that's inevitable in our world, and then all of a sudden, there he is on the cross, and Judas goes, I'm going to go hang myself, because he was still not in a condition of understanding the fullness of what was happening. And that is, and I know the Bible says the Satan came into him, and I'll be discussing that more, because there's a lot to talk about Jesus. We need to think it through. Not just knee-jerk our way through what we emotionally feel. And that's true in our day-to-day. We need to look at the circumstances we're facing. I've had many conversations, some very violent conversations, very passionate conversations about what a horrible situation the world is in right now, and how, I won't go into details, but they're in all this angst and wanting to take some kind of action to stop something they think is happening in the way that it ought not happen. They don't realize that God is in control. And as a consequence, they're shooting themselves in the foot, right and left, trying to stop something that has to occur in order for the things that God is planning. Just like with Judas in the same situation. Had Judas not done what he did, we don't know. Someone had to have done that, because they couldn't get him. And so, I don't understand the fullness of those dynamics, because I don't see why the Roman army couldn't just come to pick him up. I mean, he's there. The Jewish leaders had control over all that. If they wanted somebody put to death, they should have been able to just go get him and hang him on a tree without any betrayal. And yet, this dynamic of betrayal was required when the most powerful people in the existing world sought to get him, and they could not get him, no matter what they did. The only way for them to ever have captured him was through an insider who would know when it was the best time, and even identify him with a kiss, because they didn't even know for sure which one of the guys was it. They were blinded to seeing him, evidently, because why would they need to, okay, the one you kiss, that's the one we'll get. You could have kissed anybody. They didn't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole dynamic of this story, and I can understand with some people that are rational people wanting to figure out how things happen, and this is a fairy tale, but it isn't, because we see that played out over and over again in our world. We see people put into positions of power, who are clearly not capable of doing the job that they've been commissioned to do. Why we put them in powers beyond me, and we just keep doing it all. We put back and forth, one extreme to the other, to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. We just do it. You know, at this point, I've seen so many elections in America that I see that this is just a game we play. And everybody likes the adrenaline rush of getting all upset about it. Whatever side you choose to be on. Oh, I don't know. People seem to like it. And they keep doing it. And it's total futile thinking and action. It just creates stress, unnecessarily damaging your body. And then it's only going to last a few years, and the whole thing's going to be gone. We're not even going to be thinking about it 10 years from now. We're going to go, oh, yeah, there was a time we were under, this happened. Oh, yeah, well. Oh, now we got another guy in office doing the same darn thing. So, it has to have an overarching plan, in my opinion, that is God, and He is allowing. Now He's not putting them in office. We're putting people in office. It's our choice. We're doing it. Casting our votes. We're putting them in. And He's saying, I will allow you, because God has authority over, to have who you desire to have in authority over you. And if you choose any human being other than me, you will suffer. Now that's written in the Old Testament and many other places. We need to make God the ultimate authority over us in our finances, in our social world, in our government, and in everything else we do. And God has told us that whoever gets in office, we better be on our knees fasting and praying all the time, because they're going to do stuff that's going to have an effect on our life. And so what we need to do once somebody is in the presidency is pray for them, not grouse about them. And yet that's never what we do. We think somebody's perfect, put him in office, and then we just go, oh, I don't like him after all. He's not what I thought. I know a lot of people that get married that way. I performed one wedding once. And we got the wedding done, and it's like a week later, and the bride calls me and says, Don, I made a mistake. I said, what do you mean you made a mistake? She says, he's not the guy I thought he was. I said, well, how long did you know him before you married him? 6 years. Well, I don't know what to tell you. You had a chance to make a decision. You made a decision. You're a 35-year-old woman. And I'm not sure why he would change suddenly like that. You kind of,